Let's move on to the fifth and final question of this episode. I'm a speech and language professional and a parent to a 4-year-old that I suspect may have SM. I've been doing a lot of research lately and I've come across some advice on the importance of labeling praise for talking. For example, saying things like, I like how you use your brave voice is a form of positive reinforcement. However, on a recent episode of Unspoken Words, Dr. E mentions that we shouldn't bring attention to the fact that our kids spoke. This makes sense to me since the attention piece is part of the fear and anxiety. Can you talk through this more? Is there a time and place for verbally praising their brave talking, or should we always just play it cool and just reflect on what we heard them say?
This is such a great question, Brandon, because I think this is where confusions come in. Our approach is social comfort precedes communication. So that's the baseline. The focus on talking or being a brave talker, to me, if the child is ready to talk about talking, we talk about talking. But many families present to the Smart Center with such a focus on talking that that child is so avoidant of talking. And many develop speech phobia. They're stuck against the nonverbal wall. There's so much pressure to speak that it becomes a reinforced avoidance and heightened anxiety. People focus on selective mutism. And as you know, mutism is a symptom. If you focus only on the symptom without understanding, then you're basically only reinforcing what they can't do. And I feel our kids are brave showing up in many cases. So we want to understand the child's baseline. We want to understand the factors. Is this child a timid child, a sensory child? Like what else is going on with this child? And really adapt the treatment to that child's unique needs. Even as young as 4, they can relate to a feeling, something being scared, scary, or overwhelming. 4-year-olds understand the bridge in terms of pointing, telling mom, using words. We often take the word talk out of it and talk about using words. And we will play games. Now, the younger the child, the more the goals are very parent directed. So it's called silent goals, where we will train parents on what strategies, interventions to use to bring them into social communication, how to set up the play dates, how do you question during the play dates, training the parents, how to buddy the child up, how to question, when to question, with who to question, what do you use when you question. All of that has to go on in the background. And once that's in place, children will make progress just by that, by teaching the selective mutism triangle, to be able to not say, tell them this, but asking a choice if need be to bring them into the social communication, re-asking, no answer, tell me, and really respecting their stages on the bridge. And what happens is by respecting stages on the bridge and children knowing where they're at on the bridge, even as young as 4, they're brave just showing up. So if we focus only on talking, when they're not there yet, you're reinforcing. But we do talk about talking when they're ready. And by opening up and not pressuring about talking too quickly, it's amazing how the children come around and they themselves start saying what they're doing. Like, mommy, I talked here. And we train the parents not to jump up and down and say, well, now that you talked here, you should be talking there. Or the more you talk, this or that. We say, hey, you must have been comfortable. Proud of you for playing that game, and then move on to something else. It's how you talk about it. So I want our listeners to understand, I do know that our ultimate goal is to become a confident, social, verbal communicator. We know that, but we have to be careful with how we talk about talking and when we talk about talking. I don't ignore it. If a child mentions it, we acknowledge it. If a child is working on telling mom at a restaurant because we're now using our voice towards someone safe, they're kind of writing where they're at on their bridge and they're playing the games. So by training parents how to set up games, so they're playing a give my order game or a scavenger hunt game or a guess who game or a hi bye game or a sandwich question game. I mean, we have thousands of games, and with each game, there's all different ways to play it based on that child's kind of presentation. By playing games, getting points for playing games, getting rewards for playing the games, the child starts to make the progress and starts to cross the bridge to become verbal. So it's amazing by just the way you question, when you question, how you set up that game through the use of visuals, perhaps by going to smaller, less crowded, less overwhelming places for the sensory child. you're going to see more progress. And the child himself or herself is going to start to see, Mommy, I use my words there. I talk there. And you acknowledge it. And I have kids talk about talking all the time because they're ready to talk about talking. So it's a fine balance. It's a nuance. It's an intuition. And what I think this mother is saying is this child was being rushed to focus too much on talking. Not that she was being rushed. The parent senses it was too much of a focus on talking too soon for her child. And she realizes she wasn't necessarily in that place yet. But she's a speech pathologist. She has more intuition than maybe others that don't have that experience. So what she's saying is my gut is saying, hey, people were talking about being really brave to talk when she wasn't really ready to be brave to talk. Also, know if you're practicing goals in a loud, large, lots of people environment for a very sensory, defensive, sensory overwhelmed child, you're not going to have the success. And then you're going to be like brave talking, brave talking. You're basically throwing the child into an environment that's not successful because it's overwhelming them, or they have an expressive language challenge. So putting their thoughts together to say it is difficult, but we're asking them without pre-planning, without a visual script, to go up to a complete stranger when they're timid to ask a question spontaneously out of the clear air. So it's how we set this all up to get that success so the child is safe to talk about talking and doesn't feel it as pressure, but that this is where we're going and I'm going to get there. Even at 4, it's amazing to see these kids draw themselves on a bridge and rate their feelings. It's incredible.
That's really interesting. All right. Well, I think we're at time. Thank you for answering another 5 questions from the audience. This wraps up our latest installment of Ask Dr. E, and we will see you guys next time.
All right, everyone. Have a great day.